Hello, everybody. The reason why I'm wearing this mask is not because I'm afraid, but because I'm not important. What I have to say, however, may be relevant. Today, we're going to start with C, and I'd like to talk to you about the climate. Man, the world is screwed. So, we keep hopping from one crisis to another, and we don't really, there's so much happening, right, with the climate, and I live in Calcutta, and it's been raining in Calcutta for the last 12 hours or so, and this is winter time. Rain in Calcutta in winter time is rare, and raining for this long is extremely rare and abnormal. So we'll get back to India soon enough. Let's start with Australia. What's happening in Australia? They say hundreds of thousands of animals have been killed. Uh, Thousands and thousands of people are being displaced. Their homes are being burned down, and uh, and it's not something that happened overnight. Australia has faced this long, long drought, and everything is dry, and everything is just ready for the match. And it's that's sort of such kind of like living on eggshells kind of way. It's like this sort of cosmic uh, abusive relationship that you never know when the fire is going to be lit and when it's all going to come down. And that's just Australia. We forget that as we now focus, as the media now focuses on Australia, there were the fires in California. You remember the fires in California in 2019? Yeah. Do you remember the fires in the Amazon? Yeah, it's still happening, I think. I mean, that's still happening. And hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of animals and entire species are being wiped out. And that's just the fire. It's we have to be able to look at this crisis, the totality of the crisis. Because we're being shown by piecemeal, right? We're being shown one crisis after another crisis after another crisis, and because we see this in the media as being one crisis being showcased, we kind of tend to forget that these are all happening simultaneously. They're happening at the same time, and as one peaks, the other ebbs, and the other begins, and it just keeps on going. And that's just the fire. So let's go to drought, because that's incredibly important as well. Now, the drought that's happened in Australia was a precursor to these fires, which sort of inflames the fires. And then you have the droughts that happened throughout Africa and the Middle East in the last 10 years or so, and the millions of people it has displaced, the sort of societal decline it has caused, that many attribute the Arab Spring, partly happened because of the climate crisis and because of the drought and because of people living in rural areas who relied on agrarian, farming a lifestyle based on farming, had to move to the cities to find work, and they couldn't find work, and they were not welcome, and it created this strife, and it was incendiary. And that's Middle East. And then let's go to drought-ridden Yemen, and let's go to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is just starting. This crisis is just starting, relatively recent compared to what's been happening in Yemen for the better part of the last decade. And rivers are drying up. There was a report that the Victoria Falls in Africa is drying up. Its output has been drastically reduced. Now, as these droughts happen in these major parts of the world, there are other parts of the world that are being inundated with water, right? When they're not supposed to be. So you have this incredible flooding happening across the Middle East, the Midwest in the United States, and you have these sporadic torrential downpours all over India that shouldn't be happening. Let's sort of see the importance of this, because both India and the United States are crucial in food production when it comes to global food production, and the places that are being inundated with unseasonably rain and like long torrential rain, these places are the bread baskets of the food baskets of not just those countries, India and the United States, but of the entire world. In the last few months, while India has been going through several geopolitical crises, all of a sudden the price of onions skyrocketed. It went up like four times. That's 400%, and it's still that way now. And you sort of wonder what happened, and it happened because there was this flooding, this torrential downpour that happened at a time right before the onion harvest that caused massive destruction of crop. And this Iowa is not being able to harvest its soy and corn, and that's sort of this uneven distribution of water coming down in rain is happening all around the world. I gave the instance of two of the largest instances here. China is also experiencing, but I have to say, full disclosure, I'm ignorant about to what extent China has been impacted directly. But I would suspect that they are being impacted because from the early 2010s, they have been building dams on rivers, conserving water, directing waterways, because they know this distress of water is coming, which is going to be the crisis of the 21st century. Availability of clean, fresh water for the growing population of the world. Excuse me. So as we go from water coming down, let's look at the water that's filling up the oceans. Arctic and the Antarctic are losing ice at unprecedented rates. There is now talk and suspicion that major ice shelves in both these continents, these polar continents, may dislodge and start to disintegrate. And as this warming slowly happens, and there's been no sign of it going down really. The water that's rising and taking up this space where the ice which is white and water which in the ocean is very dark and dark blue, it's attracting more heat. It's instead of the white ice shelves making it sheltering the heat, so to speak, or reflecting back the heat, which is what white would do versus what black would do, which is absorb the heat. Basic science. So the ocean's getting warmer, so it's heating up the ice shelves and the icebergs and everything from underneath, and then you have the global temperature increasing slowly, which is melting the ice from up top. And so last time I watched something about this, they said that every single day, every single second, 3 or 5 Olympic-sized swimming pool worth of ice is falling into the ocean. Every second. Ooh, that's a lot of water. That's a lot of water. And what's happening with that? With the oceans rising, it's just rising, and it's eating up these island nations. It's threatening low-lying country. When you have rich places, this happened in rich places, the whole world knows about it. So Venice flooded, and it was like, whoa, Santa Claus in, thigh-high rubber boots for Christmas. But Bangladesh is losing land, people. islands in the Pacific and the Indian Ocean, they're literally just disappearing. These liberal countries are now investing in other countries so they could relocate people. All this while the rain is coming down, like it happened in Indonesia last couple of days ago, that's killed so many people. So you see the water's coming down from both ends, and then all over the world. And then the water's not coming down some places where it's crucial, or the water's coming down some places where it's crucial for the water not to come down at that time. So it's a mess. It's a mess. And people are being displaced. This is the geopolitical part of it. People are being displaced at unprecedented rates. Bangladesh is going to have about, 2 million people who are going to be displaced because of literally the land being eaten away by rising seas, and major cities that are on the coasts of the world. You have London, you have Amsterdam, you have there's so many African countries. Gives sort of shows you how ignorant I am about so many parts of the world. The world is so big. So I'll just give you what I can think of. Now I lost my train of thought. And that's the whole point of this experiment, because it's overwhelming. This climate thing is overwhelming. So you have the water, you have the fire, you have this displacement of people. 2 million people in Bangladesh, the displacement that's happened in the Middle East already. The cities that are projected to be underwater or inundated, go all the way from New York City to London to Amsterdam to Calcutta to Dhaka to Mumbai. These are major cities, and I assume that Singapore and like other low-lying cities and other coasts where millions and millions of people live, if not billions, are going to feel this. And we're not doing anything about it, really. I mean, we're at this impasse, or we're at this like brain fart decade, or more than a decade, where we're just like, oh, okay, well, this is happening. I live somewhere that's landlocked, or I live somewhere that's 50 miles from the ocean, or, oh yeah, if it rains here, it'll be good. That is such an ignorant way of looking at things. That is such a, it's like you're a frog just sitting at the bottom of this pot, this slow boiling clay pot of water, and you're looking up, you're like, oh, this is nice. It's warm, and not realizing that it's going to cook you. It's going to cook you the fuck alive. Anyway, so it's a big global crisis. It's this massive, massive crisis that's happening. It's disrupting everything. It's killing animals. It's killing species, decimating coral reefs around the world. Going back to Australia, the Great Barrier Reef, but it's not the only reef in the world that's being affected. These beaching of whales, these animals die, these birds dying, people, and then the people, man, like deforestation, WTF, plant forests. We need to plant forests. We need to conserve water. We need to rainwater harvest. We need to urban farm. We need to smart farm, aquaponics, hydroponics, urban architecture farming, indoor farming. We need to be able to move away from this life that we've been living, that the status quo, the fossil fuel economy, the land and dirt for food, when we have the technology and the knowledge and the wisdom to do something that that would revolutionize. And that's what I suspect that's what people talk about when they say Green New Deal or anything of the sort. With energy, we need to divest. We need to stop cars. We need to cut down. We need to cut down half as much. If we need to driving needs to go down. Public transportation. Governments need to invest in public transportation. They need to be able to focus on renewables, electric cars, research and development of batteries that would store the energy coming from renewable tech like solar. Not just focus on solar, because there's always the threat of stupid people starting a nuclear war. So you might want to focus on wind as well, and not just large scale, small scale. There's so much happening. But there's so much more that needs to happen. And the people who can make that happen are these energy companies and these petroleum companies and these oil and gas companies that have billions and billions and billions of shares and profits to go to their shareholders, to go to their board directors. And because they're publicly traded, for the shareholders to go to the board and go to the company and say that we need to stop. We're okay with not making money for 1 year, 2 years. Stop, gear back, re-gear. Let's move in a different direction. Unless we do that, we are seriously, all of us, we're all fucked. We're all fucked. On the last note about this before, and I want to leave it with the all fucked thing, is that I am so incredibly humbled and so incredibly moved by Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg should be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. She should win the Nobel Peace Prize. She needs to be focused in every news segment in every part of the world at all times. And we need to give her the credit that is due. She is the ambassador of peace. She is that messiah for the climate that we so desperately have needed. And I commend her, and I'm so humbled by her strength and her courage. I couldn't do it. I'll tell you that much. I do my little bit. And I've come down to close to a carbon neutral, but I never can until the entire infrastructure changes. So think about that. Think about how big. See this brain can it's kind of, and that's also why I did this thing today. Because it's a big thing to think about, but we need to think about it. We need to have thought about it 10 years ago and really gotten on top of it. We have the technology, we have the knowledge. We just need the push. We need the people. We need the shareholders of these companies to realize that their grandchildren and their children's grandchildren are not going to have a place to live. Their status quo is going to be just upended, and just they're going to have a really, really rough time, people. We need to be able to work to make this world livable for them and livable for the species and the animals and the plants, so people can still be at awe at the majesty of this world, of God, of the universe, and of science. Thank you.